Hey everyone, Amanda here from Jupiter's Labyrinth for our last Until the Fall What's Up Wednesday live Q&A. I didn't get any inquiries this week from you all, ahead of time. So if you are joining me live, feel free to chime in and ask questions. Because I didn't receive any questions ahead of time, I actually have some herbs that I harvested yesterday at Comfrey Gardens that I thought I would just profile. I haven't processed them yet, so I just have a big basket of plants, and I thought maybe I'll just go through them and talk a little bit about why I harvested them, what I'm going to use them for personally. And you know, maybe these are plants that are growing in your garden or wild around your property too. And if anyone has questions, go ahead and just punch them in to the comment section here. Say hi if you like. And we'll just go from there, and I'll just kind of go through what I have here. And if I get questions, awesome. If not, I will check back in with you in the fall. All right, so the first plant that I have here is Mugwort, and you know, forgive me because Mugwort, a little droopy, but you can see she's just about to flower here, and the leaves are, oops, hello spider. This plant is amazing. This plant was the one that was taking up the entire space of the gardens before we kind of got them back into action. They were kind of ignored for a good long while before we got them back. So anyways, Mugwort. Why Mugwort? Mugwort is one of my absolute favorites. I'm going to keep saying that. I always repeat myself because I have so many favorites. But it's all about heart healing. And it has to do with people, like we're talking about the flower essence or the energetic spiritual properties. Hey Celeste! We're talking about people who give too much, like sort of the type A personalities that are, you know, there's no gender related, but the mothers. The mothers are just like give, go. And sometimes they're depleted. Sometimes they just give to the point of not having anything else to give. They don't know when to have a seat and stop and slow down. And that can cause lots of imbalance and lots of sort of depletion in many ways. So Mugwort is huge for that. It does work on the physical heart. So it can be used for cardiovascular issues, for heart palpitations through menopause, or really any sort of disorders. If you were born perhaps with an irregular heartbeat, it can really help to strengthen and balance the heartbeat from the heart muscle itself. Even heart palpitations from anxiety, again, if we're thinking about those type A personalities, they don't know when to stop, when to slow down, and they feel the anxiety in their heart and maybe even have a racing heart within anxiety and, you know, panic attacks, that type of thing. Mugwort is your friend. It is the aerial parts that you use. Typically, I would wait maybe till it started to bloom, but because I'm on a little bit of a different schedule this year harvesting, I thought, you know what, I'm going to harvest it now. And sometimes when I harvest throughout the season, I'll harvest once where it's mostly leaves, and I'll harvest again when the flowers come, so I can kind of get a strong dose of both of them. Everyone does it a little bit differently, but it is typically the above ground parts that are utilized for this plant. It's also a really wonderful postpartum plant, which of course I'm going to be venturing into pretty soon, and it's all about, you know, supporting healthy mood, mind, and emotions as women transition after their birth and start to heal. So it's a uterine, it's a little bit of a stimulant, or it helps to kind of slough off anything else that might be kind of residually in the uterus. But it also just helps to bring that nourishment and tonification back to the body as well. I already mentioned the anxiety piece and the menopause piece. It's a wonderful bitter. So it's a wonderful digestive bitter. And anything that's bitter in flavor is going to have a corresponding action on the liver and on digestion. And of course, when we're talking about hormones and bringing hormones back into balance, especially for any any woman going through their life, whether it's postpartum or not. It helps to regulate the balance of the hormones that we're flooded with through all of our cycles, right? It helps to bring on menstrual cycles. So if you're someone, maybe even a young woman who hasn't quite started her bleeding time, or if you're a woman who's passed over into menopause or perimenopause, this again helps to balance out the hormones and able to find your balance again. So it'll kind of move those last few periods along if that's where you're at. Wonderful for night sweats and hot flashes for women who are going through their transition into their crone wise woman years. Oh gosh, there's just so much to love about this plant. I use this plant as a tincture. Because of its bitter properties, it's not super delicious as a tea. So what I'll be doing is I'll be stripping the leaves off and drying them. For me, because I've got postpartum waiting for me, I'll be using this as a sitz bath, as a tub soak. And then I already have some tinctures made, so I'm not going to make any tincture right now. I'll also be using it. Sitz bath, tub soak. My brain is failing me. Probably just those two. And it's going to serve me really well. I know it. So I'm really excited to have this plant as an ally for me, especially during this new stage of my life I'm moving into. So that's motherwort. All right, another plant friend I've got. This one, now motherwort is native to this area, so you can see motherwort growing wild. In fact, I found a little area in Dover, downtown Dover, growing, which is really cool. I hadn't seen it there before. This plant is not native, but it spreads really easily. So this is lemon balm, and it is, it's it looks like a mint. It looks like any other mint, but when you smell it, it's this delicious lemony. I have all these critters crawling on me because of the herbs. So sorry if I'm like scratching myself. Bugs everywhere. The woes of an herbalist. Okay, so lemon balm. Delicious. I harvest it when it's just within the leaves and also when it's blooming. Again, it's the aerial parts that you would use. Super easy to grow. If you have a friend or you see some growing at the farm or for sale at the farmer's market, get yourself some lemon balm. It's an enormous ally. Not only does it smell good, it tastes good. Kids love it. And it's really wonderful for anxiety and for calming a heavy heart. It's actually called the heart lightener. It's an antiviral. It helps to even support hyperthyroidism. Now, there was a lot of research saying that it had the tendency to not be supportive for hypothyroidism, and that sometimes it might even interact with some of the like Synthroid and other hypothyroid medications, but that has been debunked. So that is no longer the case, which is awesome. It is completely safe. There's no contraindications here. So it's safe for anyone, for healthy adults, for children, for elders, across the board. A wonderful, wonderful ally. It's an anti-inflammatory in the body. It is antiviral, so it fights off lots of different kinds of viruses, cold and flu prevention, digestive aid. So when your digestion's a little off, maybe there's some flatulence going on, some bloating, you need some stimulation to kind of move things out, lemon balm is amazing. And again, it just lightens the spirit. It kind of brings the energy of the sun. I think the sun and the moon in some ways to just center yourself, and it's so delicious. So versatile. So what am I going to do with this? I'm going to dry it. I'm going to have it as tea. Again, just kind of getting ahead of perhaps any of the baby blues that I might experience, that a lot of women do after giving birth, just to kind of keep my heart light, keep the anxiety down, and of course all the new lessons I'll be getting. So I will dry this. My favorite way to dry it, again, is I will strip the leaves. So I'll just kind of drag my fingers down, collect the leaves in a bowl, and then I use a dehydrator. You can certainly hang them in bundles in a sort of a dark, dry place and let them dry that way, but I just find that it's quicker and easier if you have a dehydrator, and they dry more evenly, and they don't, because sometimes when you bundle them, they can get a little uneven in color. When you're looking at dried herbs and you want to see their vitality, it's the smell, it's the taste, and it's the color that you want to keep nice and green. So dehydrators work great for that. It's always on low. It's always under 100. Like I think mine goes down to 90. So that's what I do here. Welcome everyone. If anyone has questions, please go ahead and write them in the comments bar. I didn't get any today, so I'm just talking about the herbs I've harvested from my garden yesterday and kind of profiling them a little bit about how I use them and how you might use them. So if you have any questions, feel free to throw them on in. All right, where's some other friends? This is a big basket. All right, so let's see if I can move some out of the way. Lemon balm here. Okay, so here we have some comfrey leaf, and everyone's a little wilty because I didn't get to them yesterday. So, but these, I think I'm drying all of these, so it's okay, as long as I get to it presently. So this is comfrey here, and I like using the leaf for comfrey. And if you have comfrey growing in your garden, you know that you want to keep it under control. A lot of herbs like to take over. And so a couple of mine are already going to bloom, and I've just kind of lopped them off, which will help them from spreading around the garden too much. So I'm going to dry these. Again, this is going to be for my sitz bath. And maybe I'll infuse an oil or two. But this is going to be for my postpartum sitz bath. Comfrey is one of the most potent healers for skin healing and for wound healing and for bone healing. You want to be mindful, and I certainly will, depending on how my birth goes. Comfrey works so well in healing the tissues that sometimes it works too fast. So for instance, if I had like a gaping wound, like a gouge out of my arm, and it was almost like a divot of many layers of tissue that had been taken out of my arm, and I put a comfrey salve or even just comfrey as a poultice on my arm, it will work so quickly that it will actually start to heal the top layers of the skin first, therefore sealing over the hole, like the wound, and not going deep and healing from the inside out. It's that fast acting. So you want to be mindful that when you're using comfrey in any variety, when it's for topical use, you want to be mindful of that it's not a gaping wound, that it's a shallow wound, scrapes, shallow tears, things like that, that this can work on, because you want to make sure you are healing the wound from the inside out, and comfrey is just so quick in its actions. Same thing with bone healing and tendon healing. You want to make sure the bone is set if you've broken a bone or fractured a bone. You want to make sure everything's in place before you take and use comfrey. It's so such a magical plant, but it's fast actor. When I broke my ankles, I used these. I had lots of bruising. My bones were pulverized, so they had to make their way back to each other in time, but comfrey was an enormous healer for helping to move the dead blood out and the trauma of the tendons in my ankles, and it worked so well. And I literally just wrapped my feet in the leaves and left them there for a good long time, and then when I took them off, it was like they were cellophane, like there was nothing left of the plant. My body just absorbed it all, and it was such an amazing healer. So comfrey. What else can we use comfrey for? You can certainly use it internally. There's lots of science saying to be mindful of comfrey. I know that's not to poo-poo it, but we have to be mindful in what kind of studies we're reading about and how the plant is being studied and what part of the plant and what dosage of the plant. So just kind of in a nutshell, the way that comfrey has been tested is on rats. And it's not the whole plant they're testing the alkaloid that is present, and they're magnifying that alkaloid. I don't know the exact quantity, but they're like multiplying it by 50, let's say, and then getting it to a very small mammal, which of course is going to lead to a different outcome than when you're using the whole plant on a larger sized mammal. But certainly alkaloids are in lots of different plants, and this one in particular, when you overdose yourself, like if you were a small rat and you decided to drink 100 gallons of comfrey, there are some liver toxicity issues, and so that's where it comes into play. We kind of need more research that's a little bit more well-rounded in that, in my opinion. But certainly the leaf is not as potent as the root, so if you're nervous about using comfrey, just don't use the root, use the leaf. Again, best to harvest before the plant is blooming. You want to follow the growth cycle of the plant, but sometimes when just the buds are opening up, I'll go ahead and harvest it anyways. So you can use this internally as well. So thinking of open wounds as, ulcers, or if you have acid reflux and you have maybe some irritation through the esophagus and the tissue there, even hemorrhoids, things that need to be coated and soothed, things that need rebuilding. So tissue damage, tendon damage, torn muscles, again, broken bones, when they're set, Comfrey can be a really huge ally for you. Oh, thank you, Kristen Lee. You're very sweet. All right, let's see. What else can we talk about here? We have some more friends. I know we've got Nettle in here, so I'm trying to avoid getting zapped. She likes to sneak up on me. It'll be my own fault. Okay, here we have a beautiful friend. Oh, it smells so good. Okay, so this is Lady's Mantle, and it's in bloom. So these are the blooms here, and you can see the leaves here down below. And what a soft, it's like a cloud. I just want to kind of wrap myself in these little leaves. They're so lovely. Lady's Mantle is such a magical plant. The Latin name is actually Alchemilla vulgaris, so it was known as the alchemist's plant. And if you've seen Lady's Mantle, or if you have a little patch, you'll notice that first thing in the morning, whether or not it was raining or not the night before, the leaves will they kind of have these little moisture puddles in the middle of them. They create this little bowl that has this beautiful, of course it looks like a little gem, of moisture collecting in the leaves, and even little dots of moisture that collects on the little serrated leaves as well. And it's just so gorgeous. And there's a story that if you are to collect the moisture, because it's really coming from the plant, it's not coming from the outside, it's actually the plant that has created this little magical pool of liquid. And if you were to wash your face with it, it helps to revitalize the skin and reverse aging, supposedly. I have not practiced it because I just started growing this a couple years ago, so I only have 2 happy plants right now. This one's very happy. I was excited to harvest this much. There's some more in the basket. So it's a very magical plant for lots of things, but one is about tonifying, tightening, toning, healing tissue. It has an affinity for the womb. So again, it's all about kind of creating nourishment for myself. So that's why I've collected some of this plant. Also for not just the uterus and lady parts, it's for the whole body, about astringing, toning. When things are lax and loose in the body, Lady's Mantle can kind of tone everything up. But it does have an affinity for the uterus. It does have an affinity for the breasts. So even sagging breasts or tired breasts from breastfeeding or life, whatever it might be, you can make an oil, you can just make a wash, you can just drink the tea. There's so many different ways. It's a really kind of benign flavor. It's not super overpowering in flavor at all. I should say that Comfrey has a very green flavor, so similar to Nettle, a little bit more rich, like spinach, if you will. But Lady's Mantle is just such a magical plant. And the other sort of perk about the energetics of Lady's Mantle and how it brings a sort of emotional, spiritual healing is that of miscarriage and loss during childbirth. And even, I would say, even through making the decision to have an abortion, anything that a loss within the womb, it helps to heal the spirit. Because even if these were choices, in the abortion sense, if you chose it or you didn't, there's still a lot to process for women to have gone through that. And there's a lot of trauma, even just physical trauma, of having that happen to our bodies, whether, again, we chose it or not. So Lady's Mantle is so beautiful, and just bringing that support, toning it through the spirit and the physicality of that trauma, of that transition, for women, or for anyone who has female parts. What a wonderful plant. So I'm going to be drying this for tea and for my sitz bath again, because sitz bath is basically just absorbing the goodness of the herbs through your pores to facilitate healing. So a really beautiful, wonderful ally. that I love so much. All right, make sure I'm not missing any questions. Please feel to throw them in if you have any. All right, so I was very excited to see these guys ready to harvest. And this is Milky Oats. Let's see if I can get a little. Now typically I will make tincture of Milky Oats, and yes, this is the same plant that you get oatmeal from, so same plant. And I probably won't be able to focus in on this. Let's see. Yeah, it's really hard on my phone to actually get things to focus, but as I'm popping these, and the latex is coming out, hence the milk. So this is the perfect time, because it was probably my last visit to the gardens yesterday, so I was excited to see that these were ready to pick. And some people actually just kind of drag their hands and pop off all the little milky pods, but I kind of just lop them off and get some of the oat straw as well, which has medicinal properties. But Milky Oats, Avena sativa, is one of the best nervous system nutritives, really. It's really when you're so exhausted and so overwhelmed that you are just like hanging on by a thread, and perhaps you don't even have the strength or the ability to relax, to fall asleep, and to even get physical rest. So Milky Oats is so enormous for this. And when you are able to grow them, and they grow easy here, by the way, we're in zone 5B here-ish, 5B. They are really easy to grow and harvest and make fresh tincture with them. So typically I would be using these fresh whole plant material, chopping it up, making it into tincture. Typically I use an alcohol extract. But because I actually have a good amount of stock of Milky Oats, I'm going to be drying these and saving them as tea. So certainly either one is good, but the tincture is far more potent because it has the full extract, or the ability for the alcohol to draw all of that potency out. So it's more for like acute situations where you really need a blast. But tea is, overnight infusions are the best for chronic stress of the nervous system, chronic exhaustion. Again, I'm looking forward to being pretty depleted after birth, but also becoming a mom. So I'm really kind of getting all of my nervous system allies lined up so that I can bolster the exhaustion that might be probably unavoidably is waiting for me. So oat tops will be absolutely part of my daily blends that I'll be drinking as an infusion. So Milky Oats, nervous system magic for anyone. All right, I think I have one more friend in here that I can talk about, and if you followed me for a while, you'll be sick of hearing me talk about this one, because I talk about it all the time, because it's awesome. And that is my friend Nettle. Let's see if I can get Nettle out without being stung. Okay. Oh, motherworts hanging on to. Okay, so again, these guys are a little bit on the droopy side because I just harvested them yesterday. But we've got Nettle, and maybe you can even see the little hairs along the stem. And Nettle is such a powerhouse nervous system herb. It's different in the sense, it's not the same as oat, in the sense that it helps to really, pull you up by your bootstraps and really kind of give you the nourishment you need to rebuild from that deep place of exhaustion. But it's like a multivitamin plant. It really is, where it really revs up your nervous system from a place of nourishment, instead of like, it's not like a lot of like green tea, or even trying to think, even herbs that like adaptogens like eleuthero or Siberian ginseng, they kind of like, it's different, where it's like full steam ahead through your adrenals. Nettle works on the nervous system, from head to toe, just rebuilding through proteins and vitamins and minerals, and really just gives you a nice natural energy boost. And that's not really blasting any, particular system other than the nervous system, which is our entire body. And it has so many other wonderful benefits, because It's just a magical plant. It really is. It touches on digestion. It touches on liver support, kidney support, hair, skin, and nail support. There's no contraindications really with any of these plants, by the way. There none that I am aware of, none that I know of. I always double check when folks are on meds, but none of these have contraindications. They work beautifully as daily tonics and just daily nourishment. Nettle helps to flush excess water from the body. For people who struggle with water retention, with gout, even kidney stones, it just helps to kind of balance out the nerves and really ground you. Because it's so deep in its work on the nervous system, it helps with sleep, it helps with anxiety, it helps with any sort of nervous system disorder, kind of because it builds from the ground up. It builds from just the roots. And man, I'm getting really kicked right now. What are you doing in there? They're probably sick of me talking about nettle because I do this all the time. Let's see. There's just so many virtues of this plant. And so I literally drink this every day, add it to every formula. When I am working with a client, I don't think there's one person that I've not introduced nettle to because it benefits everyone. The only thing I would say is that it can be over drying for folks who tend to already be dry. And so in that sense, I would encourage you to add a little moistening plant in just to bring some of the moisture back. So if you don't have high blood pressure, licorice root is a nice option and it's delicious. Marshmallow root or even violet leaf, just to kind of balance out the moisture so that you retain some of it and it doesn't, you don't pee all of it out because nettle is diuretic, as many herbs are. So that would be the only factor that I would kind of take pause if someone was already very dry, just to kind of balance out the moisture for them and that energy. But I think that's it. I just have, I have one more. I have one more friend hiding in here somewhere. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, here we go. Our final friend. So, what do we got in time? Yeah. Again, no questions this week, so if you have any to throw in last minute, please do let me know. I'm just going to talk about this final plant, and then I'll let you all go unless you guys have questions. So this is, again, sorry, they're a little droopy. Got to get these processed, but you can see the beautiful white undertone of this plant. Okay, this is a plant that's ruled by the moon. This is Mugwort. So what's so cool is another name for this is Wart. We have Motherwort, we have Wart. And chickweed is known as maiden wort, so we've got the mother, maiden, and crone with those three together. But mugwort, first of all, it's so aromatic. It's so lovely just to kind of run your hands down and take a nice sniff. It is another fantastic postpartum herb, just again for transitions in a woman's life, whether it is starting your cycle, whether it is balancing out your regular cycles. It's not for getting pregnant. That's for sure. And it's not used for during pregnancy, and neither is motherwort. If you're already pregnant, you take a break from those because they do stimulate the uterus. But then you can use it through menopause shifts and also through postpartum depression. Although this is known as an herb that's bitter, a liver supporter, digestive aid, and again, similar to motherwort, although this is, I would say it's a bit more bitter than motherwort, a little bit more aromatic too. Anything that has the bitter component is always related to digestion, to liver support, to balancing out the hormones in some way, or to at least lighten the load of that liver that has to process all of our hormones. But it's also great for really heavy-hearted types of depression. Where motherwort was more for anxiety and kind of like tension and just like type A. This is more for just like soothing the heavy heart, especially again through transitions. It works on the endocrine system through that lightening of the heart. So it does touch upon that as well. For folks who are struggling with polycystic ovarian disorder and other things that revolve around the imbalance of the androgens and the estrogens and everything else around the hormones, this is your ally as well. So fantastic. I'm going to be drying this for tea and for sitz bath and for V steams when I'm ready for vaginal steams again. It's wonderful to use as an incense as well, and I've been feeling really drawn to using it during my labor as incense, just to kind of call in. It's very much connecting to the moon energy, which can be related to female energy, and calling in your guides and your helpers, and just going to that astral plane, going to that other place that we go in our dreams, to access help, to access guidance, and to tap into our intuition and our inner knowing. It's a really beautiful ally for that. And it's also the plant, well, I shouldn't say this one in particular, there's lots of Artemisia. This is in the Artemisia family. This is Artemisia vulgaris, and I'm not sure exactly which one is used for moxa in acupuncture and acupressure practices, Chinese medicine, but the Artemisias are. So this can actually help to stimulate different energy centers too within the body, which can be used for labor induction too. So I'm going to be kind of playing around with this plant quite a lot. And I learned recently, a couple years ago, from Anya Tutnik, I believe is her last name. I apologize. She's an amazing herbalist, I believe from Russia, if I'm remembering correctly, who said that, like, you cannot not use this plant after having a child and after going through childbirth. It's such a huge helper, mind, body, and spirit, to make that transition and to kind of keep that strength and that connection to yourself, and to your baby, but also to kind of move into your next chapter. So that's kind of stuck in my head even before I was pregnant, and I'm excited to utilize this plant with Mugwort and many others. So yes, so you can absolutely use this for vivid dream work, and be ready to really dream with it. And there's lots of different ways. You can have it as tea. You can do a foot soak. You can just sleep with a leaf or two underneath your pillow. You can dry it and burn it as incense before you go to bed. And I will say, I mean, you're going to have vivid dreams regardless, but what's really helpful is to have an intention and maybe even jot down a question or a journey you'd like to take in a journal before you go to bed, holding that intention, asking Mugwort to guide you. And then, because sometimes we'll forget what it was. So writing it down and then going to sleep, having Mugwort gift you with whatever dream it might be. And then without overthinking it, without even trying to make sense of anything, first thing in the morning, you just write, you just journal and jot down whatever you get. And the more frequently and consistently that you do this and you work this plant in that way, the more that you can really connect to doing that inner work, the astral world, the dream world. And I will say that you won't necessarily feel rested when you wake up, because the dreams can be that colorful and intense and vivid, and even what is it called when you can control your dreams? I'm spacing on the word. But you know what I'm talking about, when you can realize you're in the dream when you're dreaming and kind of pave the way a little bit. Mugwort can absolutely encourage that sort of dream work as well. So it's a really amazing ally, and it's everywhere right now. This is another wild medicinal that you can find growing all over the place. I mean, it's just all covering the highways right now. So, and if you're not taking it internally, you can certainly, if there's an abundance, ask permission from the plant and harvest what you need for whatever you might be using it for. So any other questions before I kind of wrap up? This is going to be my last Q&A before the fall, when I come out of hiding from my leave. So if you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and put them in the comments. Otherwise, I'm so grateful to you for tuning in for the last one. And it's been really fun to be able to offer these once a week, even if it's for just a short period of time. But I do plan on picking it back up again. It's just fun to say hello and connect with whoever might be here. Hope you're all enjoying this gorgeous day. All right, well, I think that might be it. I don't see any questions coming in. So thanks so much for those of you who tuned in, and I look forward to seeing you again in the fall when I start these up again. Thank you so much, guys. Have a beautiful, beautiful day.